All right, Sonny, you warned us about the defensive front, and I see that a couple of Wisconsin players are coming through the transfer portal and some other additions from other teams.
Yeah, I mean, it's we're excited about James Thompson Jr. I think he's one of the guys that Brett Bielema brings up just by himself more often than not. Kurt Neal was another kid we got from the Badgers. I think there's a kid I'm really excited about, Pat Farrell. I want to see. I think he could be one of the breakout stars that I like to call like the next generation of Illini players. Again, we have 17 of 22 starters returning this year. I think we're replacing 28 scholarships on next year's team. So after this year, and that's why the season is so important, to be honest. They're going to be rehauling that roster next season. I think Pat Farrell can be one of those stars. The defensive line position is interesting because we've had so much talent there. Keith Randolph, Jerson Newton. But for some reason, we haven't been able to really recruit to the level that we're producing. We have a great defensive line coach named Terrence Jameson, who's been rumored for a lot of the top jobs when it comes to defensive line coaches at some of the Blue Bloods. But for whatever reason, they haven't been able to bring the Blue Star talent in. This year is going to be a little bit interesting. Again, they're bringing a lot of the Wisconsin guys. Brett Bielema has a really good relationship with who's the former defensive coordinator with Wisconsin, and he was an analyst with Illinois for that 1 year. He got the interim job, but he wasn't picked because Luke Fickell. Do you recall the name? I'm blanking right now.
Analyst at
he was a defensive coordinator for Jim Leonard. Thank you, Jackson.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, so one of the best.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly. There's nothing Jackson doesn't know. But Jim Leonard and Brett have a very good relationship after it didn't work out in Wisconsin. And Jim actually recruited a lot of these guys. And so, he was kind of the middleman when it comes to setting up contact and relationships and scouting. And once he gave the thumbs up, Brett Bielema, he talks about as if this is going to be a strength, and I do believe him. But because I haven't seen it necessarily, and again, you're talking about a lot of new guys, it's probably one of the big question marks for me coming into the year.
Breaking down the Illini with Sonny Verma, Locked On Illini, also the Illini cast right here on YouTube. And Gabe Jacobs could have went to the NFL. He's coming back and kind of sizes up the linebackers along with Dylan Rosiak. So it seems like you got experience in production coming back there.
Yeah, exactly right. Gabe Jacobs is he was on the list of the Big Ten preseason honors, where the Big Ten picked 16 names. All the coaches picked 16 names, and it's surreal that two of them are Illinois players. You had Luke Altmaier and Gabe Jacobs on that list. Gabe's one of those guys who could have made a lot of money early in his career jumping to an SEC team, and he could have made a lot of money this past offseason jumping to an NFL team. But he said he had a really good conversation with Keith Randolph, who decided to stay an extra year 2 years ago. And he just believes in the training and the development that's going on in Champaign right now. And so I think Gabe is one of those guys that if he was playing for Ohio State or if he was playing for Michigan, he'd be talked about a lot more. And he's going to be the star on the defensive side of the football.
We saw one of the best secondaries in college football a couple of years ago, one of the best secondaries we've seen across college football in recent years. And now we've got another star-studded secondary. Xavier Scott's locked in. And I see a stat here, 106 starts coming back just in the secondary.
It's probably the room that I enjoy watching the most. You mentioned Xavier Scott, who's one of the three players who represented Illinois at Big Ten Media Days. But there's another guy who I think is going to become a full-fledged star this upcoming year, and that's Matthew Bailey. His season was cut short 2 years ago. Last year, he had a very solid season. This year, I think he's going to become the star that he was meant to become. 1 second, Mark. Sorry.
Sure.
And so, okay, one. All right, sorry about that, Mark. I got a 4 and 7 year old.
No worries, Sonny. I know the deal there.
Yeah, but it's Xavier Scott's one of the best stories because he's a kid that didn't have a scholarship offer, and Brett Bielema got to watch him, and once he saw him, he's like, "Yeah, I want to offer him something, but I don't have an extra scholarship to give him. If he steps foot day one onto campus, I'll give him that scholarship. He did. His first start was in that Michigan game that you referenced a couple seasons ago, which we were so close to winning, and he kind of hasn't looked back since. And that's just kind of the embodiment of Bret Bielema, right? Just finding a diamond in the rough and then letting them reach their maximum potential, and that's what Xavier Scott is.
Right, Sonny.